This is the Enduring Minds podcast, part of the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts, Evan Birch, and I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Jason Bahamundi. Mr. Jason.
How are you? How are you,
taking
my
today's-
friend?
I am surprisingly feeling amazing after that 60K on Saturday. I am back. Let's just say that. That's where I'm
Yeah,
feeling
your
right now.
first race back since the DNF at Tahoe 200, which occurred within the first 10K, so within the first 6 miles, and you ran 60K, so
Yeah.
36 miles.
Yeah, and funny enough, the entire first 30K, I'm willing to say half of it was covered in like sticks and branches the entire way. So I have a video. All these sticks were literally just trolling me the entire time because that's how I rolled my ankle, was stepping on a stick. So I was determined to just like conquer those sticks on the weekend. So
I know we want to bring Lisa on here as quickly as we can, but quickly, this is a show about mental health and mental strength. And so, yeah, so the sticks are torturing you, shall we say? And like, what's going through your head? Are you thinking about spraining your ankle, or are you thinking about I'm running and I'm racing, and that's the focus, and whatever the twigs and sticks do, they do?
yeah, a year of patience and growth has shown me so much of you have to be where you are in that moment, and if you're not, that's when things go
Yeah.
wrong, when you're drifting. And I think for me, that was the biggest thing, was I was committed to being present this weekend, no matter how it turned out. I didn't have an expectation, and that was the first time I sat at the top of the summit for 10 minutes just to take it in, because I'm like, I'm not in a rush today.
Yeah.
I don't have to push. Like, that's not why I'm here today. So it was nice to just actually follow through on what I said I was going to do.
I love it, dude. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I will share, when you said drift, I immediately thought of us at Salt Lake City last weekend. And it was muddy as all get out, and trying to make some of those hairpin turns. We looked like we were in Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, going around through that mud sections out there, dude. It was bad. It was crazy muddy.
I saw some I saw some of the pictures and videos from there. It's, yeah, giving me flashbacks to when I ran Divide, and it was, yeah, crazy. Well, I know we can chat forever. I am super excited about our guest today. We have Lisa Smith-Batchen, who is our guest today, a true pioneer of the ultra endurance world. For those that don't know her name, she is a multi-time Badwater 135 champion, Marathon des Sables winner, a world-renowned coach who has pushed her body through the most extreme landscapes on Earth. But the miles she has covered on asphalt and sand are only half the story. Lisa has been fiercely transparent about her early battles with severe eating disorders, deep emotional trauma, and the dark nights of the soul that ultimately reframed her entire relationship with movement. So in this episode, we're going to use her decades of elite endurance as a vehicle to explore the absolute depths of the human mind. And we're diving into the thin line between self-destruction and healing, what it takes to survive our own internal wilderness, and what it truly means to run from the heart. So Lisa, welcome to the Enduring Minds podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Just wanted to say one thing, Evan. I loved that you introduced Jason as your beautiful friend, your beautiful partner there, because that's a great word.
Yeah, absolutely. It encompasses everything that people don't see and what they do see, and I think
Yeah.
that's it's a very powerful word. Words are powerful, so I appreciate that. We're going to start us off with our very simple question. We like to call it a simple question because it really is. Who is Lisa Smith-Batchen?
Boy, what if I said I'm not sure? No, but and that is so true. I'm not sure. I'm still growing. I'm still trying to figure out who I am, and I think that that's a good thing. Constant growth, constant moving forward, steps forward. But in the short term, I am a mother of two amazing young girls, daughters now that are 20 and 23, both adopted, loves of my life, loves of my husband's life. Um, I am a coach, a motivator. I am a good friend, a daughter, a sister, like all of those things where you continue to try to strive to be great at, right? And that kind of takes a lifetime of work. So I'm still striving to be who I want to be and where I think I'm headed.
I think that's We're going to use the word beautiful answer. I think that's a beautiful response. And what I wrote down after growing and figuring it out, which were two of the first adjectives that you used to describe yourself, I wrote, I wonder if Lisa is a risk taker as well, because you can't grow. At least my belief is that you can't grow to try to figure out who you are without taking risks in life. Let me try this. Let me try that. Let me see what this is like. Let me see what that is like. So would you also add risk taker into the description of who is Lisa?
Absolutely. I mean, without risk, you don't grow. I mean, if you just stay steady and remain what you're doing, you're not going to grow. I mean, we are in this life to learn. Life is for learning, and sometimes that means taking risks and stepping into a place of the unknown where you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. And that's takes courage too. And everybody's capable of it.
Getting comfortable with uncertainty is a difficult task for many. And I know we live in this comfortable world now. And funny, we're talking about risk. My mantra, one of them this weekend, I had two when I was doing my race this weekend. One was no risk, no magic. And the other one was earth below me, sky above me, fire within me. And the number of times that I repeated those while I was on the trail. So it's funny that Jason brought up risk, because it's something that is ingrained in my mind over this weekend. But the question I have is, what is it like to be Lisa right now today as you're sitting here?
Well, I have to tell you, if you asked me that question 2 weeks ago, my answer would have been different. Um, 2 weeks ago, I actually had a TIA, an ischemic stroke, and landed myself in the ICU. Completely just happened while I was out to dinner with friends. So, who I am today is very different than I was 2 weeks ago. And I'm still trying to figure out why it happened, how it happened, and that I thought that I was like, that's it. My life is over. That's where I was at. I know you guys are probably shocked with this answer, but if we would have met before, it would have been different. But my gratitude and overwhelmingness of faith has tripled, quadrupled of how precious life is, how fragile life is for all of us, and that it truly, for me, changed in an instant when I least expected it. Sitting with friends, having dinner, and that was what happened. And I'm still trying to process it because now I'm on heart medications and all kinds of things I wasn't on 2 weeks ago. And I have a lot of follow-up doctor's appointments coming up this week. So when I tell you about the unknown territory and the stepping into unknown and risk, like everything I've done up until today, comes down to today, right here, right now.
My wife, Lori, and I, excuse me, have a mantra. So if we're throwing around mantras this episode, one of the mantras we have is live a good story, which means do the thing, right? Go do the thing today, even if it's not successful. And so I asked you about being a risk taker, and then you give us this news about the stroke. And it made me wonder if the idea in your mind, as you're going through, the last 2 weeks and going forward, I'm going to take more risks because tomorrow's not guaranteed and I want to live a good story, or I'm going to take fewer risks because I want to be here for my husband and my two daughters and my friends and my family. And that's also a good story that I want to live. Like, where do you think you are today, standing at the fork in the road?
Jason, that is such a great question. And obviously that has been top of my mind, moving forward. Like, the last few weeks, much less risk taking, because you got to take it easy. You got to find out what's happening there. And it's truly come down to like being a good listener, being a good student, and trusting the people that I'm working with. You know, like I look at a doctor as a coach, like I trust this coach. I have to follow directions, and it's up to me to stay in that moment. But my greatest hope is that I will get back to taking risk, you know, and that, you know, this is temporary, but it's a place where I haven't been in much of my life, where, oh, you have to take a step back and be the good listener and be the one that's following the directions. And no, I can't go run up that mountain today because I'm supposed to take it easy and wear this heart monitor and do all these things. So it's been a huge adjustment where, you know, the risk, I see my kids like, Mom, you can't do that today. You're like, you know, you do have to really put other people in your life in the forefront because they don't deserve to have to worry about the risks I'm taking right now. You know, so you be that good listener and you put the risk on the back burner for now. And if you get the chance to be in that category again, I would like to do that.
I think that's such a great answer, because there are going to be people who listen to this or watch this on YouTube that are going to say immediately, without being in your shoes or having ever been in those shoes, that's it. I'm jumping out of airplanes. I'm going to go wrestle crocodiles. Like, I'm going to go live, right? Without really considering the idea that I have to listen to my doctor and my coach so that I can get past this phase, however long this phase lasts, so that we can figure out what's coming and going, so that I can then go and wrestle crocodiles and jump out of planes and do all the things that I've always said I wanted to do. So I appreciate your response, because I think what we tend to lack in society today is patience. And your response is
word.
truly, yeah, your response is
That's
truly
the
the
word.
definition of patience.
Patience is a virtue. And I really believe patience is something of growth. You know, patience, trusting, and do I want that to happen again? What happened 2 weeks ago? Absolutely not. I don't want to go back to that. But I also am in a place of life where patience is worth it. You know, it is worth it because you got to trust, and you got to trust the patience. So jumping out of a plane or going to wrestle with crocodiles can wait. You know, it's going to just have to wait a bit. And I'm okay with that.
I mean, I keep coming back to that beautiful word. I know we've used it a lot of times already, but that, I mean, to hear the story, and I mean, you're gracing us with your time and presence today, 2 weeks after going through something that many of us will never experience. So I would imagine, maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, is the word grief something that you're currently working through in some way?
You know, Evan, I feel like, I don't know if it's grief. I think that I'm in such a place of serious gratitude that, you know, my husband got me to the hospital. They gave me the shot that you have as you're having a stroke. Spent a few days in the ICU unit, and just like thinking like, I'm okay if it's my time. I mean, I was seriously at peace with it because I've lived a great life, and I'm happy that I got to be able to feel that, you know, but I'm also ecstatic that I'm here talking to you today. I really saw both ends of, I'm at peace, I've had a great life, but also the other end of how devastating my kids, how hard it was for them. So I'm damn well going to do all I can to keep going, you know, to keep living and be here for them. This was a serious bump in the road. A good friend of mine said, boy, God sure wanted to shake you up a bit so you could find out what he's got for you next. I love that attitude. And that is the attitude. You take a step back, you have a setback, you know, and you prepare for a comeback. However that looks, I don't know. I don't know. And the unknown is tough, but I'm being patient to find, you know, to find that out. And it is a place not everybody will end up. I didn't think I would, but I think that it happening to me gives me greater sense of how to help somebody else, or the signs and the symptoms of this if it is happening to somebody else, because that's called learning too. I'm learning through this process. I'm not grieving. I feel like I'm more processing.
The phrase "what happened happened, now choose what happens" is what's been playing through my mind as you've been talking this last little while.
Absolutely.
And I know you champion really heavily that running from the heart. So what does that mean practically to you? Again, I know it's very running specific, saying running from the heart, but I would imagine just like all of us, we do all these ultra endurance efforts, we do these long distance races, we choose all of these things for ourselves to put ourselves into that little bit of discomfort. So when that hard thing that comes in our life that we don't choose hits, similar to what you just experienced, does running from the heart also come into your life outside of running?
Running from the heart. You can't run without your heart. Running from the heart. And I'll tell you another thing they discovered during this process of doing all kinds of tests was they did a bubble test and discovered I have a arterial septic defect, which is a hole in your heart, which may need to be repaired and it may not need to be repaired. It's still a process of, like, in the way they repair these things, they don't do open heart surgery anymore. And these holes in your heart are there from birth. I would have never known it was there unless this episode happened to me. So I feel like I've been running from my heart, with my heart, my whole life. But now I'm being told I have this hole in my heart. And a friend of mine shared, like, wow, you have no hole in your heart. Your heart is so good and your heart is so big and so beautiful. And I thought, well, maybe I'm discovering I have this hole in my heart because it is God shaking me up a little bit for me to discover what's next. Like, I got to get this hole fixed. And then maybe I'll be better. I don't know. Or maybe it doesn't need to be fixed and it's just something I've lived with all these years. But then, of course, my mind is, whoa, if I do get it fixed, will I run faster? Could I go faster? So there's so much about the heart, like what you're talking about. And I feel like I'm a very heart-based runner that has evolved for years and years. And that, I love, you guys say, the everyday athlete. Like the everyday athlete, I'm not just a runner, I'm an athlete, and that you got to have a lot of heart, which is courage, strength, taking risk. I mean, and you got to think with your heart. You do. I mean, there's so much heart involved in everything that we do, and you got to learn to trust it. And I'm trusting mine right now to improve. I hope. I know
I
that's a
love it.
long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, it's great though, because it gives me a lot of other avenues to go down for the next question, which, as you were talking in the prior answer about being okay if this was your time. So Santino, his wife Heather, my wife Lori, and I had dinner, and then Santino, Lori, and I drove 20 hours to and from Salt Lake City last weekend. And we talked about that particular subject, right? Like, I'm happy enough at this point in my life that if something were to happen, I'm okay. Like, if it happens, it happens. But I will tell you, like 7, 8, 9 years ago, that was not the case. Like, I would tell people I want to live forever. And what I've come to realize through self-introspection and conversation is I was unhappy, so I needed to live longer so that I could do things that would help me find happiness. And so your mindset about if now's the time is the time, has that always been the case? Or do you think that you've been able to accomplish certain things, find love amongst friends, family, do the jobs that you wanted to do that have given you satisfaction, that if it was the time, then you are okay with it? Like, has that always been a mindset for you?
I wouldn't say that it's always been a mindset for me because I think we spend a lot of time not thinking about it. I believe that it comes with certain situations in your life that are unknown and you immediately have to react. And how do you choose to react? Is it with fear or is it with grace or is it with feeling, oh, I'm okay? Um, I lost my sister 4 years ago to stage 4 colon cancer. And I didn't say mean I lost her. She went on to a better place, but it was brutal for me. And she was younger than me. And it was brutal because seemed so unfair. She was younger, had, more kids and grandkids and things like that. And I learned so much from her, um, choosing joy and choosing to take this, knowing she was going into this beautiful spectrum of even planning her own celebration of life while she was still living. That my fear of any of it, like I never had fear of it, but the beauty of being able to let go and know where you're going really helped me a lot. This is my younger sister. And that's the way I've moved forward, is that it is okay. It will be okay. And that, I truly live for today, and that today could be the day. And of course, we don't want it to be the day, but if it is, are you ready? Are you ready? And yes, I am. I can answer that wholeheartedly and say, yes, I am. And I think that that's a place that I've gotten to myself, and it's not like planned or really thought out. It's just evolving.
My college econ professor would be thrilled with all the notes I've taken in the first 20 minutes of this conversation. Perspective is the word that I'm going to come back to right now, because we are ultra runners. We do hard things, but I'm wondering if having that perspective and getting it also from the loss of your sister, reinforcing that perspective, I should say, not getting it, but reinforcing it. Does that make running, and for those of you listening, I'm putting easier in air quotes, does that make running easier because you do realize your perspective is, this is something I get to do. I'm going to enjoy it. Yes, it's hard. Running through Badwater Basin, which I've paced and crewed at, is extremely hot. It takes a long time and all of the things, but you know that there are other things in life that are just more important. And so running, again, becomes easier, air quotes. Is that the perspective you have with life and running?
Easy, yeah, easier is a great word, but I would say it becomes more joyful. It just becomes more joyful, more free, more, it's not, it's what I choose to do. It's what I love to do because it's where I, solve all the worries of the world, and where I spend my time with God and anybody else who's gone before me. So it is easy because it's my choice of joy.
Yeah, this idea of, I want to turn to the idea of suffering and how outsiders look at ultra running as this like suffer fest. And I truly believe that there's a difference between good suffering and like the like uncomfortable suffering that we don't choose. So we're talking about the choice piece here. And I think that suffering only happens because we're constantly trying to chase something. We're constantly trying to find, like, chase that outcome, chase that milestone. But it's really something that we're trying to avoid or escape from our own internal selves or own internal voids. So, how have you, over your ultra distance career, managed the mental side of things versus the athletic side of things with regards to that idea of suffering?
Well, you might not like this, or a lot of ultra runners might not like this, but I just have taken the word suffering right out of ultra running, or the word suffering right out of sport, because, you know, suffering to me is seeing my sister with stage 4 cancer, and seeing, people when I was in the ICU and I walked out of there knowing that most of those people weren't going to leave there. Um, I mean, what define suffering. I mean, suffering really is a not a choice to me. Like suffering, my sister wasn't choosing that suffering, and but boy, she was sure graceful with it. When we're running and we're in ultra running, we're in pain, we're hurting, we're pissed off, like, why am I out here? Like, there's all of that going on. Your foot might hurt. You're like, sure, I acknowledge that we're hurting. We chose this path. We chose this. We chose to have these blisters and chafing and, to be sleep deprived. And nobody is pushing us into suffering. Um, I love like saying you're in the pain cave. Yeah, we are in a pain cave and it's painful, but I choose to take the word suffering out of it because I've seen a lot of suffering. Um, when I had massive knee surgery, I suffered with pain. That was suffering. I wasn't choosing it. And the mental aspect of it is completely different when you're healing from something suffering. But there's also some people who are never going to heal from suffering in the end of their life. So I know that the word suffering is such a broad topic, but I just take it out of sport because it's a choice that we make to put ourselves in pain, to challenge ourselves, to take risks. And yeah, it hurts a lot. But at the end of the day, you're probably going to get to sit in a chair and have a nice meal and take a hot shower or a cold bath, and your suffering or your pain is gone. I know that's just my way.
I absolutely love it. I am 100% in alignment with the way that you talk about suffering. Suffering is not a choice. Full stop.
Yeah,
We are
suffering is very, very difficult to watch too. It's very
absolutely,
difficult to watch somebody suffer. It's really exciting to watch somebody in pain running an ultra and hitting their goals. And we keep pushing them like, man, yeah, your feet hurt, but keep going.
yeah,
Yeah, your stomach hurts, but we got an answer,
yeah,
right?
we
Like,
absolutely. We're a collection of our choices, not a result of our circumstance. And
amen, Evan.
I'm going to let Jason go with the next question, but man, the suffering word for me, I'm in agreement. Get it out of here.
Well, I wrote Misery Loves Company. And I think when you see people go on social media, the algorithm rewards the misery loves company mindset. If you went on and you said, I glided through bad water, I barely broke a sweat, it was wonderful, it was good, people would be like, whatever, and they'd scroll right past you, right? But if you start talking about how hot it was and the mental hurdles you had to accomplish and the gymnastics you had to do, all of a sudden you get this dopamine reward. And so I think it's very refreshing to use the words that you use to describe suffering in comparison to what we do as everyday athletes in sport. Like I watched my father die from throat cancer. He was suffering. When I'm running a 100-miler or I DNF a race, like that is so temporary, right? Like we're on ultra sign up the moment we finish the race looking for the next
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Didn't suffer in the grand scheme of things. And so as a coach, right, you have to balance this concept of you're going to do hard things and I need to push you further. And they might use the word suffer. Like, how do you balance all of that? Because it's delicate, right? You're dealing with people's psyches and you want to get the most out of them because you want them to feel rewarded for themselves and celebrate themselves. So like, is there like coaching mantras or is there a philosophy you present to your athletes in like the onboarding session so that they know what they're getting from Lisa when they hire you?
Well, I don't think they know fully what they're getting. That's for sure. I think, it comes with a lot of conversations. I like to get to know my athletes, not just send them a schedule. I like to know their home life, their family life. They have kids or what their hobbies are. What's your favorite movie? Just things that lead me to know a person. And I think that helps with the mental aspect. Taking the word suffering, you're going to be miserable. Like if you want to you can run in a race, participate in a race, or you can race the race. You know, either way, if you want to win a race, you're certainly going to be really uncomfortable and possibly miserable to push through some very tough obstacles put in your path, usually the unknown ones. You can know a lot, but then the ones that show up that you didn't expect, those are the ones you really got to be ready for, especially mental. I went off course for a mile. You know, how are you going to handle that? What are you going to do? Are you going to call me up and say, you know, I got lost? I'm going to, big freaking deal. Get back on course and keep going, right? It's like, how are you going to handle it when you're in it? I think it's very tough to train somebody to know what to expect. I could tell you all about Badwater. I could go out there and do it blindfolded, tell you where every Joshua tree is, but I can't tell you what you're personally going to experience. I can sure share with you what I've experienced. And there has been great joy, so much love for this place, you know, the course, but there has been sheer misery of uncomfortable, like, are you freaking kidding me? You know, windstorms, sandstorms, it might rain, you know, it got humid, or, you know,
The
there's
climb at the end.
coyotes chasing
Like,
you.
why?
The climb at the end. I love that climb at the end. But yeah, why? I mean, there's, you love it, and then you hate it. And the next minute you love it again, then you hate it again, and you're never coming back. I'm going to give you guys the greatest example here because I know you know Bob Becker. I've coached Bob Becker for 21 years. Last year at 80, he did Badwater again. The year before, 2 years before, he crawled on his hands and knees to try to make the finish. You should have him on your podcast. But last year, I decided I'm going to go crew him. Okay. And he went 3 hours faster at age 80 and beat a lot of people a whole lot younger than him. And it was more what I was telling him in the conversations we were having along the way, using my coaching to help his mind of, let's just get to that tree. Let's just get to, like, breaking it up into such small things. No, I need to sit down. I said, no, you can sit down in a mile, or you can sit down in 10 minutes. And before you know it, it's an hour. Like, there's knowing people and knowing how to help them. But it's also switching the mindset. I need to sit down. No, we'll sit down later. Let me get you a popsicle first. Or just ways to, how do you go 3 hours faster, 2 hours later? But walking up the Portal Road, the last mile, he goes, Coach, this is it. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm never doing something like this again, you know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Bob, let's talk about it later. And well, I want you to know next week he's on a plane to go do Denali 135. You know, so all of this happens to all of us. I don't care what your age is, but yeah, the misery goes away. The uncomfortableness fades. Why do women have more children? Right? Think about it. It's the same thing. Like, it's the joy. You're left with the joy. You're left with the accomplishment, whether you didn't finish it or something happened, but there's joy and there's learning, and we want to keep learning. So we keep going back.
As a coach myself now, the last number of years, being able to see the athletes that I get the opportunity to have them put their trust in me, seeing them succeed in whatever way that looks like, whether it's a strong finish, whether it's sticking to their plan, whether it's just not getting injured, whatever that is, I didn't realize how much gratitude, how much I was going to get back from it,
Mm-hmm.
even more than what I feel I've accomplished in the running space. And I think a lot of people misunderstand this idea of, I don't run fast enough. I don't deserve to have a coach, or I'm the back of the pack. I don't like, if I go to a coach, they're going to laugh at me. They're going to make it seem like I shouldn't, I don't need it. And I think everybody as a runner, if you're doing anything in this space, give yourself the gift of finding somebody that cares as much as you do about your goals. Because my job as a coach, I see it as not necessarily like helping somebody become who they're meant to be. It's like you said, Lisa, it's drawing out of them what they already are. And I think that, like in that story that you told me, those last, like going 3 hours shorter, that's what I heard. You drew something out of him that he didn't even know he had inside of him, but you did. And I think
Yes.
that is the power of a coach, especially a coach that understands their athlete, that isn't just pushing a plan, that really understands the home life and that running has to fit into your life. For many of us, this is not a professional endeavor. We are fitting running into our life. It's not the other way around. So I want to say that. And then I can't imagine Lisa I'm going to use my daughters. My daughters are 8 and 11. And I love being able to share these things with them because they're getting to see these strong, amazing women that I get to talk to in this podcast. And I'm going to show them these as they get older because I can't imagine Lisa at age 8 or 11 was thinking, I'm going to go run Badwater. I'm going to go run
No.
Marathon des Sables. Like, I want to walk back I'm going to take you back to my kids' ages, 8 and 11. If you have any sort of recollection around that time frame, who was Lisa as an athlete, or Lisa as an athlete at that time?
Well, I grew up with 3 older brothers and a younger sister. Neither of my parents were athletes, but they sort of grew up in the outdoors. And we tried every sport that there was. Literally, we lived outside, softball, baseball, like running, swimming, I mean, you name it, fishing. I was just one of those kids who did not like to be inside. I wanted to be outside playing and doing, anything. I'd ride my bike to the pool and be gone all day and come back. And my brothers played football and ice hockey. So I grew up with them doing that. And so as a kid, I would say naturally athletic, but I didn't know I was athletic, because it was just free. It was just freedom. And that's what I did. Play was being active. My mom would ring a bell for us to come in, and I didn't want to come in. It's time to eat dinner and ring a bell. And I'm like, no, no, I'm still out here. So, I mean, I can't imagine how many steps or miles I got on my feet back then. But it was all play and it was all fun and it was all joy. There was no method to it at all. So I think that it was the lifestyle that I was able to have as a kid. We didn't watch TV much. We didn't, you were just outside. It's very different these days with kids.
The play and joy is, I would say, is happening today as well as you're coaching and you're going through your process. When you got into running, specifically into running, were there moments along this journey to where you are today where it wasn't play and joy, where it was an opportunity to take it too seriously? And I say that as a person who did it. I took it very seriously, and it sort of took away from the play and joy of these sports. And I've come around to find that mindset again over the last 6, 7, 8 years of play and joy. And so did you have a phase where this was way more serious than it should be? And if you did, how did you bring it back to play and joy? And if you didn't, how did you always stay at play and joy?
Wow. That's a really good question, by the way. So I tried out for our high school cross country and track team because I loved running. I was always running, always running. Well, I didn't make the team as a freshman, and they had a board you went into the gym and the coach was yelling off who made the team. And my maiden name was Smith. And they said, Smith didn't make the team. Like I didn't make the team. So I hear these words from this coach, I didn't make the team. And I thought, I'm this young freshman in high school. I love running. And I thought, well, why didn't I make the team? He says, you're too slow, too slow. So, I take these words that this coach has told me. I go home, I tell my mom, I didn't make the team. I suck. Basically, I suck. I'm too slow. I'm no good. And I carried that with me for years. I carried that with me for years. It kind of set me up for feeling terrible about yourself as a kid, that you loved to do something, but you were told you were, good and too slow. So, of course, I turned it into something bigger at that young, vulnerable age. So, all the way through college, everything, I didn't run because I sucked. Everybody would be out running and I wouldn't go because I said I sucked. I used that as my mantra, like, I'm no good. So, I allowed that one person in my life to validate the way I lived. So, I did other sports. I was in swimming, I was in diving. And it was just by chance, my last year of college in Wisconsin, that I was asked to run a 5K turkey trot race on campus. And again, I said, I suck. I'm not a runner. And well, why don't you come volunteer? So I said, I could do that. I could go volunteer. And I found out it was over Thanksgiving and it was for the local food bank. Like, people were running this 5K turkey trot race to raise money for the local food bank. And it went all the way to get there. And a volunteer asked me why I wasn't running. And I said, because I'm not a runner. I'm no good. Like, I continued on. Well, it's only $10. I'm like, well, I don't have $10. Well, and needless to say, I ended up with an orange shirt on and convinced to run the race. The gun went off at that race, and I didn't even have running shoes on. And the gun went off and I went off. I ran the race, and as I'm going through the finish line, you won, you won, you won. And I'm like, who won? I won. I won the frickin' turkey trot race, the 5K turkey trot race. So I got a medal around my neck, had the orange shirt, and I won a 20-pound turkey. And I went home for Thanksgiving with that 20-pound turkey. And I said, guess what, Mom? I don't suck after all. And that's where my running started, believe it or not. And then I went from that and I ran one semester of 10K on the track. I loved it because the coach got me, was like, you can run. I'm like, really? Okay. So I ran one semester of college track, and then I went straight to the marathon, and like, I did not stop running. So there you have it.
That is such a great story. And we don't do a lot of deep dive research into our guests. We want to have this be just a natural conversation, get to know you as we're talking. And so, like, I have no idea what I have in common with you when you show up on our screen about 45 minutes ago. Well, as it turns out, I have a similar story in that when I finished racing at Rocky Raccoon 100 a number of years ago, I was sat in the chair and one of the volunteers was like, you won. And I'm like, who won? Like, I'm looking around for who this athlete is supposed to have won this race. And it turns out I won my age group that year. But to your point, I had no idea it was me. And I really thought at that time, I was like, holy shit, I am pretty good at this, aren't I? It was like an awakening to have. But in that moment, I was like, who won? I'm looking all around for like a finisher, for a 6'2", runner who's svelte and looks the part, not a 5'6" Puerto Rican kid who's slumped in a chair, who's just had, 19 hours of dirt and trail put all over his body. But that story is fantastic. And I don't have a question. I wanted to chime in and let people know, right? Like, sometimes it takes somebody else to let you know how good you are. And they may not just come out and tell you you're really good at this, you should try it. They are going to be encouraging. So you as a coach, you as a pacer, you as a crew member are getting that out of the person. And like you and both Evan have both said, it's already in that person. You're just doing you're being the conduit to get it out of them and bring it into the world. So Evan, I'll turn it back over to you. I just wanted to share that story because, like I said, you have no idea what connections you have with our guests until you're having that conversation.
It's this idea of that you can't have the light without the dark. You can't have pain without the joy. Like, it's these dichotomies that you have to start to understand. And it took a lot for me to get to that place myself with my own mental health, with my diagnosis of PTSD and all of those other things that happened to me, and understanding that those things are allowed to exist at the same time. You can have joy but be in pain. Like they can exist together. It's we don't allow ourselves to get to that place of. I heard this idea of this letting go is a very like it's something you kind of comes across as something you have to like put energy into doing. Like, oh, I have to go. I have to let this go. I have to let go of this trauma or these things that have happened to me. Why not like flip it around and think about it as like I'm ready to receive whatever is to come, because receiving is a very easy emotion to. There's nothing active. It's very passive. Like you're waiting for it to come at you. So that's the way that I've kind of taken it now, is like not letting go, but trying to receive what's coming at me, whatever it is, pain, joy, failure, loss, all of those other pieces, and begin to sit with it. And I think that's something that I think a lot of people have a really hard time doing, is sitting with that uncomfortable feeling, those emotions, those things that are happening to you. So I would imagine in your running career, Lisa, there has been times that it's been high highs and really low lows. Can you describe to me one of those high highs and also one of those really low moments, so people can understand that you have like life is about the highs and the lows, and being able to work through those?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll go back a little bit to where, I started running. I was running every weekend, running a race every weekend, and I was winning them. I was winning races. And, back in the day when I was, as you called me, a pioneer, it's like, okay, I'll be a pioneer. But it's true. Like, as we're evolving, like you got to take on this legacy of being a legend or being a pioneer, because that's kind of where life takes you. And it's a beautiful thing when you finally realize that's where you're headed. And at least I got to head that way. um, I was winning and winning and winning, whether it was a 5K or it was a marathon or it was a whatever it was. And I was never happy. I was never happy. Like, winning did not make me happy. When I would stand at a starting line, I'd be like, I'm going to beat you. I was running angry. I was running mad. But it didn't make me happy at all, which was kind of sad, because you think it would make you happy. Um, and then I met my good friend, Sister Mary Beth Lloyd, when I was in my 20s. And she said, what do you do this for then, if you're not happy? And I said, well, because I get a lot of joy out of it, but it makes me feel good mentally. It was the mental part that I was striving for, because it was helping me work through struggles that I had as a kid, or struggles of hearing that coach's head like, you suck, in your mind. That's what I was running. And I would just go as hard as I could for as long as I could. But you can't sustain that. So when I met her, she said, well, why don't you help me? And I was like, how can I help you? She goes, well, you can use all that running to help me raise money because she was a runner. She is a runner, and she's in her late 70s now. And so I started running to help her raise money, which I loved to do. The same thing as the 5K turkey trot. They were raising money for the food bank. That made me feel good. That's why I decided to run, and somebody loaned me the $10, because that money was going to help other people. And so there lies where my running career or my athletic career went, was how can I help other people with these gifts that God has given me? And when I took it away from myself, my winning, man, it turned me around to finding the why I love this and the why I want to do this. It brought me to a different level of joy, and being uncomfortable and being miserable, knowing I'm doing this to help people with build clean water wells, or helping kids that are less fortunate and have no food. That that really brought me to the place I still am today, of why do I want to do this and use the talents and the gifts I was given. So that's kind of like the high and the low of, like, no, this isn't just for me. This isn't about me. And that's okay. I love it when people want to win things, and you should try to win things. And But you can also consider like, wow, maybe I can use a race to raise money for the animal shelter or something that's close to my heart and important to me, and put another level of joy around it.
In a world today where we see $300 t-shirts with holes in them and carbon plated shoes that are $300 to $500, I love this idea that running for you has brought you to where you are today because of $10. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's amazing, right? Like it is so cool
And a
that it was,
turkey.
yeah. Which with today's inflation might be about $300 in the grand scheme of
Right,
things.
right.
But reality is like we look, running is a sport that we get marketed to on a second by second basis. Buy these carbon plated shoes, you'll run faster. Get these carbon trekking poles, you'll climb higher. You know, wear this apparel, it'll wick away sweat and all this stuff. And you can spend a ton of money on doing it. Don't get me wrong, I've spent plenty of money myself. But I love the idea of the simplicity of a $10 entry and a turkey as being the catalyst for getting you to where you are today. Because I do think, right, beginners, and you guys are both coaches like I am too, like they see all of these things and they're like, oh, I need to buy all of these things. And what you need to do, and I'd love to get both of your takes on this as coaches, is start at the very beginning, right? Like get introduced to the sport, get introduced to the love of the sport, go through the hard thing, because running is hard. You're going to have obstacles before you start spending gobs of money on things that you think are going to make you happy and make you a better runner. Like, how does that resonate with you, Lisa? And then Evan, I'd like for you to chime in on that too.
Well, Evan, what's your age?
I'm 40.
You're 40, and I'm going to be 66. So I'm going to say that when I started, we didn't have all of those things. It was only simplicity. The first time I showed up at Badwater, we had jelly beans, red Gatorade, and you did not have. It was simplicity at its best. So you think about that. I was 35 at that when I did my first Badwater. We did not have what you have today. So we didn't have the gadgets. I had a Timex watch to see what time it was. And the shoes, I just had a regular old pair of Nike Pegasus shoes. You didn't have blister prevention cream and chafing gel and salt pills. And we just didn't have those things, let alone a website to tell you what the course was going to be like, or a lot of information, sweat testing, and everything that we have today for athletes. So when I look at it as being a pioneer and the simplicity, I still love to coach that way, the simplicity for a lot of people, because I see that all the gadgets and all the gear and all buying all this stuff literally takes away the joy. It takes away the fun, but not for everybody. Some people perform like they want to win a race and they've got to have all the gadgets and they've got to have all that. But you have to look at like the majority of people are not going to be winning the races. And that's okay because that's their choice. But we want them to feel good about what they're doing, that we want them to run well. So I feel like at my age as the pioneer that I have a lot to teach because we didn't have any of that stuff. And that you can have it all, or you can also be successful without it all. Because I was, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? And but there's no way I was running the times that are being run now. So the evolution of hydration, nutrition, salt, shoes, clothing, trekking poles. I mean, God, when I did Western States, poles weren't allowed, so
Are they allowed now?
Yeah,
Because
pretty sure
really,
most races allow poles now.
Yeah,
But
because when I did
maybe
it in
I'm wrong.
2019, I don't think Western States allows poles. I did it in 2019, and we weren't allowed to use poles. I was about to be upset that people were using poles these days because it was hard enough.
Yeah, it was hard enough. Well, I don't know. I think most races appear
Yes.
via social media that they have poles, and most of
Yeah.
my students doing mountain races are using poles. We did not have poles in Wasatch and Leadville and Western states. There was no poles allowed. But that's okay. It's called the
Yeah.
evolution of the sport, and people are going faster and further. And but what I would like people to do is like just take a step back. Take a step back and say, do you want to just be doing this in your 20s, 30s, and 40s? Or do you want to be doing this like Bob Becker at 81 years old? Because you only got so much in the tank. Like you can't, there's people out there doing 200-mile races every weekend. I really worry about them. I just do, for longevity of sport and longevity of being an athlete. And that's what's important to me, you know? So
I
sorry,
agree.
I got long-winded there.
No, you're good. And I agree with you. I just had a conversation that if you want to be doing this sport in your 60s, 70s, and 80s, you can't treat every event and race today like it's the last one. And so you have to try to squeeze it all in because you won't have the longevity. You'll burn out and or get injured, if not both, long before you turn 60, 70, or 80. I'm 52 years old and I've been running for 20 years almost at this point. And so I'm with you, like, take it easy, take a step back. It's okay to not be on every single starting line, and go do the ones that you really want to do so that you can be doing this at 70 and 80. Evan, I'll turn it over to you, like with that same conversation that Lisa just proposed. Like, what's your vision as a coach?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would have said same thing about 6 or 7 years ago. It would have been very different. I was trying to optimize everything. I was trying to have all the gear. I would be the person with multiple bags at like aid stations with my crew, and I've been trying to subtract. That's what I've been trying to do now. I've realized I went too far, and then as a coach, for me, athletes that come to me that are really data heavy. I have never been a data heavy athlete, and I've never really been a data heavy coach. And I keep trying to say that you have to let the data inform what you're doing in the coaching, but I care more about how you feel during a race, during a training, than the data, because the data might say that your heart rate was amazing, but then you might write in your notes, I felt like shit today. Well, then I
Right.
don't care about the data. I care, like, okay, did you have a bad sleep? What was your nutrition? Did you have a fight with your significant other last night? Like, what else is going on in your life? Because that's where we're going to be able to make the difference, not the data. The data is going to just do whatever the data does based on your life and your experience of what's going on. So that's my big take, is like how you feel is so much more important, and simplify it. There's multiple times that I'm like, I don't even know if I want to run with a watch anymore. Like, it's getting to that point now for me that it's, you talked about the word peace, Lisa, and I think all of this extra thing and these gadgets and all this stuff, and it's taking away the peace out of it, in my opinion. It's removing this level of like wildness and like being out in the middle of nowhere, not being in contact with people. And you have satellite communicators for safety and all these other pieces, but it takes away from the experience of just like going out there. Like, my favorite day of the week is when my kids say, Dad, can we go on our trail run? And they know it's going to be 5K. They're going to get a little fruit energy bar at the end of it, or during, if they're really hungry. We're going to take probably an hour to do our 5K, but I don't track it. I don't do any, we just go. And that to me is like getting back to, you talked about playfulness before. You talked about all of those things. That's what I want my kids to lean into. That's what I want my athletes to lean into. The results will be whatever the results are. You can't chase them. You have to just like focus on the process. The races are the celebration. The process is where you spend 98% of what you're doing. I talked to one of my athletes last week, and she usually has a race, and then she says she just like drops off of her training. I said, well, we need to flip that. She's like, what do you mean? I said, well, that's because you think the race is an end point. The race is not the end point. The end point is when you say, Evan, I don't want to coach with you anymore. That's the end point. The races are just these things that we're putting in to grow and show yourself who you actually are through the training. So that's my take. Now I went long-winded, so that's okay. Now we're even.
Don't you think, like, in the word effort, like, I like to, your effort, Mike, you're going to go easy today, or you're going to run a good pace, or you're going to run fast pace. I mean, because your effort every day is different, and you can't sustain running fast every day. You can't. So it's called freedom. Today I'm just going to run free, how I feel. And I think that there's a lot of people who aren't doing that anymore. And that's where it's just so fun. You just go out the door and run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would love to keep talking, Lisa. We want to respect your time too. And this conversation blew my mind. I knew we have a mutual friend, Scott Davidson, down in Vegas. He's a adaptive athlete who we've had on the podcast last year as well. If you haven't checked out that episode, go listen to it with Scott. But I know you're coaching Scott right now, and I mean that guy's engine and his belief in himself is unflappable. So I'm so happy that he's been able to find somebody to support him in what he wants to do with Badwater. So Jason, did you have any questions before we move to the last one?
I do not.
No. So our last question, another simple one for you. Where is your mind after this conversation?
Boy, my mind is that I wish we had a whole lot more time to talk, because I have really enjoyed talking to both of you. Coaches need coaches. Coaches need coaches. We're all coaches, and coaches need coaches. And I think that the one thing that comes out of this that I get from both of you is that you're never going to tell anybody you're too slow or you suck and you didn't make the team, because we all are on the team. We're all in this together. Everybody's on the team, and everybody needs a coach. And the beauty of it is that we all are uniquely different, but we're all like a big ball of clay that can be molded into something extraordinary, beautiful. And it's up to each of us to find out what we're capable of. But that also takes a coach to help you get to see what you're capable of, because that's awesome.
Absolutely. Everybody is deserving of a coach. I want every single person listening to this. If you think you don't deserve a coach, you do. Find one that cares about what you are doing, and they will move mountains for you. So
absolutely.
Lisa, where can everybody find out what you're doing, what's next, or coaching? Obviously, that's
I don't know. I don't really have anywhere you can find me. I mean, I just on Instagram, I'm at Coach Lisa Batchen. I'm not great on social media. I guess I'm learning, because you need to be. But yeah, you can email me anytime if anyone has any questions. I love questions. I don't charge people to ask me questions and answer them. I like to help people.
That's amazing. Well, the word of the day is beautiful. We're just going to clear that one up now. So on behalf of Jason and I, Lisa, we are absolutely blown away that we were able to have you on the podcast and have this time with you. It's pretty special to be able to talk to, we're going to say that, one of the pioneers of ultra running in the space. And we're super grateful to be able to have you on. So Jason, do you have any closing remarks after this amazing conversation?
It was amazing. And one of the things that kept bouncing around in my head throughout this hour is sort of this idea of coming to peace with yourself so that you can bring peace to the world. And hearing Lisa talk, it was philosophical in the conversation about peace and joy. And I think that if we could find more peace and joy within ourselves, we can bring that peace and joy to the people that we connect with, which would make the world, honestly, and I know this is cliche, right? But it would make the world a better place. And so I think it's just coming to grips with who you are, which is not easy. Please don't get me wrong. It's not easy to come to grips with who you are, but work on that. And just hearing the conversation with Lisa really just re-emphasized that for me.
Yeah. I mean, this idea that, chasing happiness is one of those fleeting things. If you're constantly chasing happiness, the word peace is just, there's something about it that
Yeah.
you're not chasing it, you're creating it. And I think that's a
Yeah.
beautiful place to come at it. Again, I said it again. We're going to use it again. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode. If you're not already following, dropping comments, subscribing, liking, you can find us at the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everything there. Drop your comments there. We'd really appreciate it. Helps us get these stories out to people that need to hear them, want to hear them. So until next time, keep going the distance and breaking the silence together.